Happy Wednesday. Today is August 1st, 2018, and I'm Michele Pischea, filling in for Jeannie. I'm here today with Dr. Timothy Hayes. We both warmly welcome you to the show, and thank you for choosing to be with us. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk with our host. We encourage you to call in with your comments or questions, allowing you to actively strengthen and deepen your practice. So now let's welcome Tim in support of developing our inner process of Aramaic forgiveness.
Thank you, Michele. How are you today?
You're welcome. Oh, real good. Lots of forgiveness talk this morning already, and then at one point I was explaining a concept and brought me to tears with this joy and gratitude, describing that newborn. So I feel really aligned, I guess. Not I guess, I know. I feel really aligned today.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody that's here today or listening on the archives. It's an honor to be able to share this time and space with people, and we want to talk about the tools that we offer and the process we engage in. And Michael and Jeannie have worked tirelessly for many years to make most all of these tools available for free on their website at www.whyagain.org. And if you go to that website, click on the red and white bullseye or the link that says Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it'll take you to a page that'll let you download and read Chapter 24 of Michael's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? It'll also give you links for audio shows like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process or giving testimonials about how it's improved their life. And we also have the ability to download the latest version of the 7-step worksheet process. And also, if you go to your app store for either the iPhone or the Android, you can get an app which has a fully functional reality management worksheet process and take it with you anywhere you go and use this tool to dismantle anything that's less than that loving energy that Michele was just talking about. She is having such gratitude for the energy that expresses when we're born, when there's a new puppy or a new kitten, a new baby human. It's the energy of creation expressing in form. That's supposed to be what we have our conscious awareness focused on and seeing in ourselves and seeing in everyone we interact with. And so what we know about this work is that when I have any kind of a negative emotion, something other than, something less than that, I can step into a process like this that helps me dismantle what's false and get direct awareness to what's true. My true nature, the true nature of every other being of brilliance and light that I come into contact with. And once that happens, once I restore a more accurate perception, I can more easily see what I need to do, what other people need from me, how I can be a blessing in that moment to the people and things around me. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to support people in doing, and we encourage people to call in like they have in the past couple of days. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was that for the last 2 days we've had very powerful calls from people who are sharing their process that's keeping them stuck or unhappy or frustrated. And the thing I want to talk about is that we always want to focus on what's the process, not the person. What's the tool, not the personality? I've talked about this a number of times on the show. It's not about Dr. Michael Rice or Dr. Tim Hayes or Jeannie or Michelle. It's about the tool or the process. And if I think that I need to be like some other person, I've missed the point. All I really need to do to make my life better is apply tools. All I need to do to make my life better is to see accurately. And when someone's in the process and seeing accurately, it's a wonderful experience to be around them, to hear it, whether it's a taped version of it or you're live there. It's just a wonderful thing to be in the process of recognizing our true nature and extending that. Whenever anybody, and we all have this happen, whenever anybody gets stuck in an unproductive loop, trying to figure it out, trying to blame somebody else for the emotions they're feeling, trying to blame the life for the events that are coming up for them that they don't want, that's not such a pleasant experience. And every one of us gets stuck at different times trying to figure things out, trying to blame other people, having my unconscious serve up to me all kinds of evidence about how people and things outside of me are responsible for any upset I'm feeling. And we had that the past couple days on the show. We've had people be very much into their words and very much into the process of trying to figure it out and very much into trying to appear a certain way. And we all get into that, and whenever we do, it's unproductive. So what we want to do in this work is remind ourselves, remind each other of the process. The process, the tools, they are what's important. It doesn't matter how stuck I am, I'm not going to get out of being stuck by drawing on my past glories. I'm going to have to step up in the moment and recognize that I'm stuck and what I'm doing with my thought is never going to get me out of that stuck spot. I need to use a tool, and I need to tap into some level of mind or insight or integration that's far higher than my conscious logical mind in order to move past that point. And everything that I thought I was up to that point isn't going to avail me, isn't going to provide a solution. Being willing to drop my need to be right, being willing to ask to be shown, being willing to let everything I think I want fall away and leave a clean and open space, that's what can be productive. So I just want to thank the callers for the past couple days. I want to thank the people who've had the courage to call and say, here's where I'm stuck, here's what I'm struggling with. And I want to highlight for all of us that every one of us has times when we get stuck. Every one of us has times when we fall into the trap of trying to figure it out. And the only way out of it that I've ever discovered is by the use of tools, is by the use of the willingness to let go and learn to live in the question, in the mystery. And that's what we're inviting people to do. We do that 5 days a week for an hour a day here, and we're going to offer the option again for people to raise a hand and ask a question and ask for clarification or give a testimonial, because when that happens, it just makes this show sparkle. It makes this show far more beneficial for everyone involved. So I'll take a breath, and Michelle, ask if we've got a comment or a question from you, a topic you want us to start with, or somebody in the chat room or in the phone queue with a hand up.
Thanks for that intro. And nobody's in the chat room, and nobody has a hand up right now.
So, how many microphones do we have on?
9.
No, those are callers. How many people have their mic turned on?
Oh, why do you ask?
Well, because it looks like somebody else has their microphone on, and if somebody's got a question or a comment, or if if they're...
Oh, no, Tim, sometimes I'll press 1 just to pull me to the top of the list.
That's you.
You know what? That was error. I'm messing with a friend who I'm going through a lot of stuff. Actually, you were singing her song when you were doing your intro about feeling stuck, and so I let her know that we were hosting today, and I encouraged her to call in. But when you do unmute, mute, unmute, you can hear it. No one else can, but the caller can hear it.
All right.
So no.
So.
All right. So that's that.
The call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you press 1, Michele will, from now on, she'll wait until you've pressed 1 to turn on your microphone. And we have plenty of time to talk. We had our support group last night, and a comment was made at the end of the support group that even though no worksheet was done, that there are times when the discussion gets so intense that it's a very valuable process, even though nobody got to do a worksheet. And that's what happened last night. The discussion was raging about the keys to the kingdom from the way of mastery, which are desire, intention, allowance, surrender, and humility. And in that process, people were asking questions about, okay, so what's this thing where we keep asking people to do a worksheet whenever they're angry or whenever they're sad or whenever they're confused or they've got emotional pain? And there were some people who were saying, they don't think that their anger is a bad thing. And there were some people who were saying, I don't think I'll ever do a worksheet on my sadness because to me, sadness is connected to love, and I don't want to get rid of my sadness. And so it was a very lively discussion about getting into the ideas of, and we encourage people to do this, question this for yourself. There's nothing being presented here that we want people to just blindly accept. This entire process is about trying these tools for yourself. That's what I was talking about in the intro. It's not that this person is a wonderful person and that person is a better person and that person is not as good a person. Every human being has the capacity to step into the use of tools and remove everything that's less than love from their awareness, and then begin to extend and be literally in that moment. If somebody does that, they become a blessing in that moment to anyone around them, to the unfolding of creation. And so it's not about personalities. It's not about, yesterday we were talking about my having a doctorate in clinical psychology. But the reason we were mentioning that is because somebody said she has a bachelor's and she never heard a lot of these concepts, even though she got a bachelor's in psychology. And so I said, hey, you shouldn't feel bad about that. I got a doctorate, and I never learned most of the stuff that I've learned in the past 15 years since being exposed to these tools. And the tools and the effectiveness of these tools since leaving my doctorate program, many of the things that I do that are highly effective in my work are from post-doctorate training. It's just to highlight the fact that our cultural conditioning and the bureaucracies that exist are not necessarily focused on what's in my best interest. So we just want to encourage people to keep using the tools and understand that the more they do, the better their life can get. And of course, if you got a question about that, press 1. Michelle will see that you have a hand up, and we'll have time for a conversation. On a regular basis, we have to end a show before all of the questions are answered, or we're at the end of the show when somebody asks a question and there's no time. So plenty of time, 40 minutes at least. How can we support you? What topic might you want us to discuss, or what question might you have that we could answer? 563-999-3581. Press 1 and Michelle will introduce you. Thoughts, comments, questions, Michelle?
Yeah, here's a thought. A couple weeks ago, well, I don't know if it was a couple weeks ago or just in the last 10 days, I heard you make a comment about sharing with other people the thing that you fear most. Do you remember what I'm referring to?
No. What is it that I share most?
No, fear most. It was part of a larger conversation.
Okay, all right. So the idea of being completely safe, whereas Way of Mastery talks about undressing in front of a friend, being completely vulnerable. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yes. And then I thought about that a lot. It was, I think, a poignant remark, and I've experienced that in conversation where I'm really scared to share something, and then I take the risk, and it just kind of melts away, and it was kind of amazing. So in the fact that we don't have anybody with a hand up right now, I'm going to ask for you to maybe take some notes, because I've done some work on this, but I think I feel like I could do more work on this. I recognize when my fear or hostility is up that it's no good to take action or talk. And so I've gotten into a real good habit of texting my vent or my raw reply, the the unconscious elements that are being resonated, and then putting it into words, and then texting myself, and then I save myself anguish and fallout and roadkill, and then later on I can go back and process all the elements that I just sort of spat out, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I have this text.
You text yourself things when you're upset to try and
instead of
store it for future reference.
Or just so I've got so I sleep on it, and then maybe the next day, maybe half of it gets thrown out, but maybe there were some good points that I can restate with love, and then complete my communication, or use that as elements for worksheets, let's say. So my husband's father died, and my husband and I are still married, even though we're separated, and he's kind of living a separate life from me right now.
Kind of?
So,
only kind of, or actually?
Energetically, we're still connected. We share a lot of things, and so, until we're divorced, you're separated, but you're still together. I'm still legally married. I still live in our family home. Maybe he's moved on more than I have, which is probable. But as far as my orientation towards him, like, I've continued to be love during our interaction.
Okay, so is he living in the same home with you?
No.
Okay, so you are living separate lives.
Yes.
That's all I was trying to clarify when you said kind of separate. Because a lot of times people do that and they're still living in the same house. They're just not, living as lovers anymore or living as equal partners anymore. Okay, so he's in a different space, and his father died, and what's the point you want to make or the question you want to ask?
So I'm going to read the text that I wrote to myself. So that's where I go back to the vulnerability and the fear, because I'm just about to expose my ugliest thoughts so that you can help support me in, like, working through some of the elements.
Okay.
It's not censored. There's regulatory speech. It's just, a good place to start. We don't have any hands up. And, even though I've done some work on this, it's still incomplete. There's more layers, I know.
Okay.
So this is the text. I sent it to my husband. I had a premonition about the obituary, and so I went to check it out. And unbelievably, you left me off the family. I find that shockingly disrespectful. We are legally married. I am your wife, and my name is Michele Pischea. I plan to keep my name for my life. And I say thank you to his dad, because that was my commitment when I said yes to marry you. What I experienced over the years, and then I named the other in-law, Mike, Noel, Amy, haven't demonstrated being half the in-law or committed as I have been over the years. I went to more family parties and events since we were married and living together than even you did, Mark. Apparently, you never considered the audacity and downright dishonorment towards Aaron and Alyssa. Those are my children that we share. I think this is a new low, Mark. What in the world could you tell yourself that would make it okay to completely scrub me out of the obituary, given our legal marriage is intact? What harm would it have caused you to list me as one of the surviving Pischeas mourning a death of a loved person in my life? It's almost like you purposely went to humiliate and hurt me and my children, because the fact is that nobody would have blinked twice or questioned if you would have put my name in there, unless, of course, you have a new lover. I know he doesn't, but she may have been upset, but I think your new dog can handle that. But leaving me out on purpose is a blatant disregard for our 17th year in relationship. I know everybody gets a little crazy when their parents die, but never in a million years would I have believed you could be that cruel and disrespectful towards me. I am beyond disappointed and disenchanted with this slap in the face. You think I'm mean? I've got nothing on you. So I wrote that all out and sent it to myself because I knew it was pure poison.
Okay, so you didn't send it to him?
No.
Okay. So here's the first thought that comes to my mind. Keep breathing. When I was just out of graduate school, somebody sent me a newspaper clipping from one of those Dear Abby
Yeah. Dear
advice
Abby
column things.
Mm-hmm.
And this person sent this to me thinking this was a wonderful example of forgiveness. And what was in that letter that they posted in the newspaper, and Dear Abby was saying, this is such a wonderful example of forgiveness. What was in there was this series of horrible things this man had done, cheating on his wife, etc., multiple times and lying about it and whatever. And what was in there was how she was going to be the bigger person and she was going to forgive him and she was going to move on and she wasn't going to attack him and whatever. And in that letter that got published in the paper was this man's name and address and town. And I was just absolutely floored that anybody could think that this was about forgiveness or anything even genuine pardoning way back then, because this is a public smearing of that person. And so that's the first thing that comes to mind, is that when you have that reaction to this action or lack of action from your husband, it's all your response. It's about your hurt. It's about you believing there's something that is of value that can be taken from you, or that's missing from you that you need from him in this moment or somebody else. It's missing the point that's the root of this work, which is I'm the one that creates all offense that I have. You've heard Michael do his workshops where he writes the initials BS on the board and people get offended, and he says, well, if you're offended by those words, please understand this is a great teaching moment for the nature of offense, because what I mean by those words is belief system. And here's an excellent example of how I can't take offense to anything anybody else says or does unless I have the energy of offense in me. If I think it's horrible and I judge it and I label it and I contract against it, away from it, I experience what I'm creating, which is that this is dishonoring, that this is hurtful, that this is tragic, that this is sad, that this is rage-producing. So the root of this work is the recognition that it's all 100% an inside job. And if this process unfolds and I say, oh, wow, look at how I'm recognizing it right in the middle of what you said, Michele, what you were reading in that text, in the middle of it you acknowledge that things get really crazy in people's lives when their parent dies. It can stir up, and often does stir up, the most intense negative experiences. It taps into our deepest fears and insecurities. It taps into our deepest angers and sadness. So you're acknowledging that in that rant, in that text.
Yeah.
And yet, in the next breath in that text, you say how horrible it is. And so the first thing I would say to you is, please begin to soften and dismantle the negative judgments you have against yourself for times when you have been disrespectful to others or you have been inconsiderate. Because if you can't do that, if you can't start to literally see yourself through the filter of compassion, you can't ever really extend that compassionate energy to anybody else who does anything similar to the things that you're still judging yourself negatively for doing.
Like hidden guilt?
Not like.
Okay.
Hidden guilt. I
Well,
will never
hidden in the
be
sense
upset
that
about anything anybody else ever says or doesn't do that I think they should, unless I'm still judging myself negatively for doing the same or similar thing. This is not anger at anybody else. This is just your anger. This is not hurt caused by somebody else. This is just your hurt. Are you breathing?
I'm breathing.
If you're there, I can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm definitely breathing.
So that's just my first level of thought here, is that this is a major time in our lives when we have a transition of a loved one. And if it's a child or a parent, it tends to be even more intense than most. And that's true even when there wasn't a very good relationship between the parent and the child. So I'd begin with that. I'd begin with recognizing, okay, this is a thing that you're doing, which is to send yourself a text about what's being triggered, and I want to thank you for being honest enough to share that with us here, and in undressing in front of a friend, or being completely, as the Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery would call it, being completely vulnerable. And all I mean by that is just being very open and just resting in the knowledge that there's nothing of value that can be taken from me and nothing of value that can be added unto me. So it's perfectly safe for me to share my deepest feelings, however ugly I might judge them, or however against a cultural value they might seem. So thank you for doing that. And then the next thing is, what would you like us to do to support you to dismantle some of this hurt that's clearly in this text?
I was just thinking about that. Like, really, what's my like core issue? And I think it's it's interesting that you brought about the Dear Abby at the beginning, because I never really thought about that might be part of why it's so troubling, is that it's kind of public that we've been a couple for 17 years, and like, where's Michelle's name? And it's like there's some of these other in-laws that like are so like uncommitted. I just feel I've been so committed and so dedicated and so loyal and so present. And
okay, so take a breath, and here's the word that was going to be my next comment, that this next word seems to be a primary issue for you here, and that word is respect. There's something about this omission that seems to be very disrespectful to you.
Well, I
and
think it's
all that you've offered, and all of the time, and all of the family events that you've been to. And if that rings true for you, if that word respect rings true for you, then that's your work, is to get to the place in you where you do not respect yourself. Because no matter how disrespectful someone else's actions might be, they can't cause a feeling of disrespect in me.
that makes sense. I think part of this is the whole thing about walking out on me, and not working on the relationship in a way that felt significant is also that feeling of respect, right? And that's good feedback.
But now notice. But Michele, notice, you're talking now about him, and I'm trying to get you, because you've asked for support and assistance, I'm trying to get you to focus on you, because no one is making you feel disrespected.
Well, when you were talking yesterday to the caller, and it was she called to compliment you and Jeannie and Michael for the work and the support, and like you mentioned about teaching you in psychology school things. Somewhere in there, and it was interesting because it was like kind of an epiphany, and I was trying to remember, have I ever thought this before, or is this a new idea to me? But something about the conversation had me thinking about my parents, my mom specifically, and her physical, mental, emotional abuse when I was a child, and realizing, and it really felt like for the first time, that she demonstrated and modeled for me how to abuse me, and that's what I integrated, is like, I'm really good at abusing myself. And so it goes right along with not respecting myself. It's like just another version of it. And so I think that is the core. And being able to at least like see the problem is half the solution, in the sense that knowing what that disrespect and abusing myself like really is at the bottom of it.
All right, so the MindShifter would be about that.
It's safe and healing to treat myself kindly, gently, loving, with respect.
Well, that might do it. You know, sometimes I've offered this one to people, and they've gotten very triggered by it. I mean, what I like to do when I'm giving somebody a MindShifter is, I even said this yesterday when I was giving somebody a MindShifter, to say, feel free to play with these words, find the ones that really resonate or trigger upset in you, because what I'm trying to do with a MindShifter tool is targeted journaling. I'm going to target a theme. I'm going to target a person. I'm going to target an emotional pattern in my life, and I'm going to write down a statement and I'm going to keep writing that statement, for which there might be some negative emotional belief patterns or negative emotional energies lodged in my system. And the more I write that out on the paper, consciously, actively, the more it adds energy to any unconscious content that might want to argue against it. And eventually that content will spill out on the page. So if what you just said really stirs things up, you can use that, or you can use a line that I've given people for decades, even before I knew Dr. Michael Rice. It's the thought that I am as lovable and worthwhile as the people I respect most. And if you want really good regulatory speech, you wouldn't use the word lovable there. You would say cherishable, valuable. I'm as valuable and worthwhile as the people I respect most. And if that doesn't do it, you could write something like, it's safe and healing for me to live from the realization that I'm the extension of love in form. And if that doesn't do it, we can keep going. Do you want some others?
No, those are all good.
Right, they're good, but what we want is something that resonates in you, that chokes you and says, I can't even write that. Just breathe. So you've clearly identified a very powerful power person dynamic in the show yesterday, and then you just shared it with us today. And I'm here to tell you that my experience has been I can't be truly, genuinely nicer to anybody than I'm actually being to myself. It reminds me of a line from one of my favorite books where it said, no loving gift is ever truly given unless the giver is respected in the process. So if I'm sitting in the middle of my life interactions with other people and I'm feeling like I'm unlovable and worthless and damaged or broken or don't deserve respect, etc., and then I go out of my way to do nice and respectful and loving things for other people, it's tainted. It's energetically poison. And it might seem nice on the surface, but I bring us back to that statement, no loving gift is ever given unless the giver is respected in the process. So if I'm operating in my life based on the power person dynamics of a parent who was physically and mentally and emotionally abusive to me and or sexually, it doesn't matter, abuse is abuse, until I do my own work to really deeply dismantle the negative judgments against myself, whatever I do in the world is only partially effective because it carries with it this energy of distaste and negative judgment against myself. And so that's one of the great powers in a work like this, to step into being 100% responsible for any internal experience, physically and emotionally. And the gift is I have the tools. You have awareness of the tools. And you can step into the process and absolutely refuse to say another word about your husband or your mother or anyone outside of you, and just start doing the MindShifter, doing the journaling, doing the tapping, the breathing, the worksheet process, canceling goal after goal until you uncover the part of you that's still convinced there must be something wrong with you, because that's in error. There has never been, nor will there ever be, a human being ever born that has more value than Michele Pischea.
Well, that's a good one for MindShifter. I was working with Rex a couple years ago, and he had given me one. And it reminded me when you said, I couldn't even read the sentence and say, wait, I don't get it. What does that mean? And I went,
It probably sounded like I was being coy, but I really didn't get it. And the MindShifter was something along the lines of all the time, resources, energy, and money is available, for my healing, exclusively, or something like along those lines. Like everything is for me and designed to support me in my healing. And I couldn't even fathom that, I would be valuable enough or worthwhile enough or deserving enough that, that could even be, what? Who cares about me?
There has never been, nor will there ever be, a human being who has more value than Michele Pischea.
All right. I'm going to commit to doing that MindShifter tonight because I'm co-hosting tomorrow, and then I can talk about, what I uncovered more. So if I say that out loud, then I'm on the hook.
All right. Well, I will look forward to hearing about how that goes for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously crying, and I have a lot of upset, but it's hard to actually figure it out, what was being touched or why, and so it'd be good to sit down with the paper.
And what's happening is you're crying and you're laughing. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So what's that about?
Because part of me, the observer knows this is just,
But here's what that's about.
Okay.
You've done so much work. There's a part of you that knows this is going to lead to even better stuff in your life. When you first got introduced to this work, there would be no laughter in your tears.
No, it's very confusing because they both feel a lot the same. Tears of joy and tears of sadness.
Right. But there's the point I'm trying to make for you here is that what would accompany your tears in the past was rage.
Yes.
Take a breath into that one. Because there's still rage in there, but it used to be an overpowering presence. It used to be such a huge part of your identity that I have heard you in public claim the title of rageaholic. And now you're in touch with some very powerful negative self-judgment and the emotions that goes along with it. And there are tears and chuckles and laughter, which is going to be your new radio host name.
Chuckles?
Your chuckles, I'm laughter. Yep. Welcome to MindShifters Radio. You're here today with Chuckles and Laughter. Chuckles, do we have anybody with a hand up? Now, this is a part of what is in the way of mastery about make fun of yourself. Quit taking yourself seriously. Just have a good laugh at the joke of your existence. This is all part of that thing you were asking us to talk about, being completely open. The word they use in the way of mastery is, completely vulnerable. But what they're talking about is just being totally honest, completely open. And I can't do that if I'm taking myself too seriously. So again, thank you for being willing to share. And with the 8 minutes we have left, tell me how I can support you.
Well, thank you. You did a great job helping me sort core that pretty quick. And hold me accountable for being committed to my work.
Well, as we like to
In
say,
general,
you're very
it's
welcome.
kind of like, you know how like giving people open season to call out regulatory speech. So along those lines. Oh, we have a caller up. Let's say hello. Give somebody else some airtime. This is area code 917. Hi. Who do we have on the air?
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Dr. Sam. It's Camille from St. Petersburg. I want to thank you for such an excellent program today. I mean, it's touching me on so many levels. And I certainly didn't expect to be this upset, but I know that it's bringing up things that I need to heal also. I've manifested and have been working with Julie on stomach inflammation, and it's I know it's suppressed rage. So I really appreciate your willingness, Michelle, to expose yours as you did in your letter to your separated husband. And I think it's powerful. And I know we have to get those things out of ourselves in order to really clearly and responsibly communicate. And all I can really do today is say thank you, thank you, thank you, because I know we're moving toward the end of the show, and I have so much to pull out of myself that it will take longer than the last few minutes. But chuckles and laughter is great for me today.
Well, keep breathing. We do have, 5 minutes or 4.5 anyway, if you want to say anything else or ask about an insight for moving forward.
I think you covered so much of it. I have some excellent notes here, and as I said, I'm working with Julie before I leave for France on Sunday because going to France was one of my triggers. And while it should be a totally happy time, I created, contact with a lot of suppressed emotions that got pulled up there in past visits. So evidently I'm willing to go again and face them and heal them with tools. I'm taking my worksheets with me. And I would just really love if you care to share, Michelle, how you rewrite your statements about the conditions that you're undergoing now in your family, because I could feel along with you all of your disbelief in the way you were being treated. And one of my big lessons is learning how to speak the truth when I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling with full responsibility for my feelings and no blame, and as well as I can manage my anger as I can.
Actually, one of the things that while we were talking that I thought about was after I do this MindShifter and maybe some more worksheets, whenever I feel like I'm clear, is use the responsibility communication tool, like to rewrite that text in a way that communicates
complete
that,
ownership. Complete
Okay.
ownership. That's what that
Right.
tool is about. That tool is not about the primary purpose of that tool is for me to clear up, to get crystal clear about the process in me that's being hidden by my mind when I think I'm upset about someone or something else. And then a secondary or maybe even a tertiary, third level use of that is to actually communicate it to somebody else. But the vast majority of the effectiveness and power in that tool is when I sit down and I write it out very clearly about how I'm creating my upset, how I've taken a neutral event from the outside and thrown an interpretation on it and given it value and let it stir up my old pains and fears and lack of self-respect. That's the value of that. And I would just, strongly encourage you to do that. That's a very powerful tool.
So ultimately it would be like a thank you letter to him for the, the opportunity that came up when I read the obituary.
Exactly. It's a part of what the caller was saying yesterday that is so difficult for us to get to, is that every life event that comes to me is coming for me. It's not happening to me. And if I have the perspective that allows me to understand that and tools that allow me to undo the upset that gets stirred up within me based on my interpretation of these outside events, then it turns into a gift, a very precious gift. Were you going to say something, Michelle?
Yeah, because you're ending the show the way you started it. That was the thing that I forgot to refer to. Was that element of the gratitude or giftedness when it comes for these situations resonating our next opportunity for healing. And so, since I'm committing all over the place here, I will, because that would be a nice letter to get feedback on, given this is all kind of intertwined. But first I have to do more work before I can probably write that letter in a way that's sincere. Or like you said.
All right. Well, we have less than a minute left, so thank you very much, Michelle, for your sharing, and Camille, and we look forward to seeing people, hearing people on the show again tomorrow, and have the best year yet of your eternal life. Thanks, everyone.